I found that looking through an indigenous lens back at what we could call a dominant culture, or within the United States, a settler colonial culture, provides a clearer sense of why it is that we're having such difficulty transitioning to a sustainable culture and even living in ways that are healthier and more conducive to our well-being. Thinking in terms of centering indigenous considerations and indigenous ecological forms of knowledge provides me with a clearer sense of how to understand the environmental issues we face and perhaps ideally, how to address them.
Welcome everybody. Today we're very happy to have the fairly new department head of bees with us, Andrew Smith, who's going to be talking about things that he's doing in bees and with the academy. So I'm anxious to really get this started. How did you get interested, or when did you find out that you knew you wanted to do philosophy?
Before I went to college, I really didn't know what philosophy was, or that there was such a thing called philosophy. And I took a first-year seminar called The Individual in Society. As soon as we started working through these different authors, Marx and Locke and so forth, I was just like totally dumbstruck and really thrilled that there were people who thought these thoughts and talked about these things. And I was immediately hooked. I went from being, I guess what we call here at Drexel, an exploratory studies student, to, after my first semester, being a philosophy student.
Tell us about your current research and what you're doing now.
My current research is at the intersection of indigenous philosophy and environmental philosophy. Through my work on environmental philosophy, I started to hit on the work of indigenous philosophers. And I'm now part of a group called PINE, Philosophy of Indigenous Education. And this is a group of young to middle career indigenous philosophers who have been very influential on my thinking going forward. I found that looking through an indigenous lens back at what we could call a dominant culture, or within the United States, a settler colonial culture, provides a clearer sense of why it is that we're having such difficulty transitioning to a sustainable culture and even living in ways that are healthier and more conducive to our well-being. Thinking in terms of centering indigenous considerations and indigenous ecological forms of knowledge provides me with a clearer sense of how to understand the environmental issues we face and perhaps ideally, how to address them.
All right, so you're fully ensconced in the environmental philosophy end of things, and you find yourself as chair of a department that is traditionally the strength has really been sort of in the science of it all, whether it's through evolution, biological sciences, that sort of thing. So tell me a little bit about how the things that you're working on fit with and are beginning to be a larger part of what's going on in bees.
I was hired here as a social and political philosopher, but almost immediately, I think by my second term, I realized that there was already a mandate to try to establish a stronger footprint at Drexel for environmental concerns, focus on sustainability, not just in terms of practice, but also in terms of research and education. That led me to interact literally with every student in bees. They were all required to take one of two courses that I teach. I have a whole lot of admiration and respect for this group of scientists who welcomed me from the beginning and provided a great deal of support for me to support their students who became my students and were supportive of me integrating myself into their more science-specific world. Since taking over as department head, I've made it clear that I want to support the strength of the basic sciences that we have here at Drexel and support the work in ecology and evolution that we're known for. At the same time, the department is well aware that we have great opportunities to work with scholars throughout College of Arts and Sciences and even beyond to strengthen our foothold in environmental policy, environmental politics, and environmental justice. And those are issues that really reside in environmental studies.
What sorts of things can we look forward to? Let me put it that way, in terms of the things that you want to do in the next couple of years. So do you have ideas of what that's going to look like?
Along with some other people in COAS, we'll strengthen our ability to show ourselves publicly as leaders, scholarly leaders, academic leaders in work on environmental justice, and work with neighborhood communities throughout Philadelphia concerned with issues of land justice and food sovereignty. We have all the parts in place to make this happen, and now I see it coming to fruition.
Part of that journey, I think, as well, involves something that we've started in the College of Arts and Sciences, and that's the innovation incubators. This is an effort to get scholars who are oriented towards, in this particular case, health, equity, and wellness, to work together on a particular project, and you're part of that. And what we've done is assembled a number of different interdisciplinary teams made up of very different people. We've sort of thrown them together and said, think about the things that you might want to work on. Can you tell us a little bit about your group and what you see as that group doing in the future with respect to the environment?
Our group is Indigenous Ecologies and Wellbeing. That name in and of itself might not make a lot of sense, but I can talk you through how we've been working together. I'm in a group of 3 with an assistant professor in psychology and brain sciences and an assistant professor in global studies. We've looked at the sort of programs and projects that have been funded in places like NIH and elsewhere in order to get a sense of how indigenous communities, specifically with respect to mental health, have not been supported by outsiders, but have been given the critical capacity to support themselves. And we're not finding a lot. There's not a lot out there. So I wouldn't say that we're on the cusp of a new sort of thing.
But a huge need for it, for sure.
Yeah. I think there's a real opportunity here to do something special. I think with a lot of the incubators, the question is, can we find the way to put the pieces together with our different research approaches? And it's been fun to see how that could happen.
Well, we're all very excited to see what comes of that, all the groups, but that group as well. So thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you.